This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
As a highly sensitive and/or introverted person, we manage our emotions and reactions better when we are well-resourced. Well-resourced for sensitive people means we've had time to ourselves to develop self-awareness, self-discipline, and self-soothing, as well as time with others to create trusting, safe, and loving relationships. Interdependence and being well-resourced go hand in hand. We arrive at interdependence by advancing along a maturity continuum. We move through the maturity continuum by passing in and out of stages of dependency and independence, and ultimately landing in interdependence. Valeria Teles interviews Brenda Knowles, the author of The Quiet Rise of Introverts, 8 Practices for Living and Loving in a Noisy World. Brenda Knowles and her website is where sensitive people and their loved ones learn to build emotional and relationship resilience. Brenda has written over 500 posts on introversion, relationships, anxiety, depression, and parenting. She is trained in family meditation and child advocacy. Meet Brenda at brendanowles.com. Here is the interview with Brenda Knowles.
In your own words, who is Brenda Knowles?
Wow, right off the top here. Who is Brenda? You know, the easy go-to is to come up with all the roles that I play. I'm a writer, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a special ed paraprofessional. I'm a personal coach. In my center, in my deepest part, I think I'm someone who's very, very interested in learning and has a kind of quiet, soft center that is a good listener, that loves to learn about people, and at times, you know, isn't the loudest person in the room, but is the person taking in a lot, you know, taking a lot of the energy, a lot of the emotion, a lot of the verbal expression. Just someone who cares, I guess. I'm learning as I go. I'm 51 at this point, so I feel like kind of becoming more and more whole as I get older, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think about who we are, it's just, it's interesting how sometimes it falls into the unknown. Right.
And I think ever expanding. I mean, really, I think I feel like I was just telling my husband the other day, I feel like I used to always be, I'm pretty quiet and introverted and I like my space and solitude. And now I'm like, you know, I really, really appreciate community and people. So it's just sort of, I think, growing, kind of developing both sides of our soul, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. So.
Yeah, I love the word you used, expansion. So it is, it really feels like it. I love the way you say it too in your book. You call it the inner and outer world. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of that dance, right, between both worlds.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, when I was younger, I think I felt the inner world was completely my home, or, you know, that's where I felt the most comfortable, but it's changing. It's growing, you know, so I'm equally or learning to be equally comfortable and at home in the outer world as well with people. And
so talk to me about balance. What is your idea of balance? Is there a destination for a balanced life?
I think to me, balanced means whole. And what I've learned, over my many years, there's never going to be a time that I believe where we feel complete equanimity or, completely balanced. It's usually, sometimes for me, and I write a lot about introversion and highly sensitive people and working with the inner world and the outer world, like you mentioned for my book, that inner world and our outer world require, quite often we're in one or the other more. So I have a family and they often need me. I have 3 children and a husband, and that, there's pulls from them needing me. So maybe one day I am very focused on the family, but then the next day I have some time to myself to reflect, to be a writer, to kind of go internal. So I think it's a back and forth, but in the long run, sort of balanced. There's both. But on any given day, one might be more dominant. But I think as we mature, we learn to really work, kind of incorporate and have sort of an interdependence between the inner world and the outer world. I think that's the goal. I think that's the balance is an interdependence between the inner world and the outer world.
Interdependence. That is an interesting idea. Talk to me a bit more about that, Brenda. That was challenging for me to understand because I kind of understood the words that being dependent and then being codependent and then being independent and then interdependent. That's interesting. So talk to me about that.
I think it was Stephen Covey who said maturity is courage plus consideration. And I think that is also a good definition or description of interdependence. So we have the courage to be ourselves and kind of be independent and maintain our own integrity. But then we have the consideration of others. And that's maturity, but also kind of interdependence when we allow ourselves to be connected and rely on others and even seek some security in being part of a community, part of a family, part of a career, somewhere, a job site. And having both of those where we are authentically ourselves and maintaining our own integrity and being independent, and then also having that connection and somewhat of a reliance. I don't love the word dependence, but it does fit. In most relationships, there is some element of dependence. But anyway, allowing that and being okay with needing someone else, asking for help and needing help sometimes, but just having that inner world of our own integrity, our own dreams and thoughts and soul and authentic, self, but then also having this deep connection with others around us. And it can be, one other person or a whole community or global, where we're working with other people around the world. So,
yeah, that makes sense to me. It's honoring both worlds or everything in a way. That really fits that description of balance. And that takes maturity. I use that word, maturity. Does it come with time, Brenda?
For a lot of people, I think yes, but in my experience and with a lot of the coaching that I do, I find that relationships are the perfect sort of crucible, for learning that interdependence, because it's a fight, when you're a child, your needs are foremost, you're pretty self-centered. And I don't mean like in a selfish, but like your world is what your need, your need for survival and what you need for your own happiness and self-esteem. Then as we get older and we have more interactions with others and we develop romantic relationships, we develop close friendships, it becomes, a little bit more, we're involved and we become more mature. But within those relationships, there's also things like conflict, that unease when we realize we're not going to always get our way, or we feel like we're kind of giving up parts of ourselves to maintain a relationship. So within that, even within the conflict, we're growing and maturing. So that's where I think a lot of the maturity comes into being, by being in relationship and giving up some of that independence, some of that self-centered I believe in being centered. That's awesome. All for it. But then also, we can be centered and be in a relationship as well.
Yes.
So.
I love that. Yeah, this is something that resonates, per se. It might not be a belief system, but it resonates with me. Yeah, relationships, they have been my greatest teachers.
Yeah, definitely. Even like as parents as well, obviously we have to be independent and taking care of our children, but our children are dependent on us. So there's an interdependence between parent and child. And yeah, that relationship is very challenging, but also that's where you're going to have a lot of growth.
Yeah, yes, yeah. A lot of inner understanding and then outer understanding at the same time. It's just this beautiful dance. Yeah,
right. You can't help but be, just plunged into both, really think about who you are and what you want to be, as a parent, but then also just what you do and how you interact with your spouse or your, co-parent, and then the children as well, and anyone else who's involved with the care of your kids. There's a lot. It definitely, children integrate you into the community, a lot of things.
Oh, no doubt. I don't have the experience, but I can see that. I mean, I see that happening around me, in my family, people who have children, how everything changed for them. In your book, you write, we need a balance between our inner and outer world. We need a balance between our temperament and our personality. I think in the book you also mentioned the difference between temperament and personality. So talk to me for a moment about that, Brenda.
Yeah, that's one thing that I have learned a lot about over the last 10, 12 years. I've been researching and writing about temperament and personality. So temperament is basically what you're born with. It's more innate. It's something that doesn't really change. Some people are more sensitive right from birth. Their nervous systems are, gauged a little bit higher. They react stronger to novel stimuli and things. And then personality is sort of what you become as you are shaped throughout your relationships and throughout your life. It has a lot to do with the nurturing you receive. So I think temperament is more nature and personality is more nurture. So it can change. Even temperament can be tempered a little bit over time due to how you're raised. And if you have very secure, loving relationships, especially when you're a small child, you might not be as reactive. If you are more of a sensitive person, you're more likely to thrive and really, use that high reactivity to be very conscientious, to be very good at self-control and that kind of thing. But yeah, so it's interesting. They're definitely different, but they are, from all the studies I've seen, it's basically like 50-50 how they contribute to our growth, and to who we are, shaping us to become the individuals we are.
Right. Yeah. The way we have been conditioned. Yeah. I mean, the presentation we have today is a conditioning that's interesting when you say some of us are just born this way with the temperament. That's true. Yeah, I see that. I clearly see that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And that can be passed down too, that sensitivity. It's like a genetic, thing, which I always think is interesting.
Right. It's interesting how everything's connected in a way, right? Like the body is sort of connected to the earth itself. We see that in nature, we see that everything's so different and has their own, let's say, flow or natural.
Right, their own pace.
Yes, unique, right?
Seasons and things, right, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it is pretty amazing. And we are right in there. It's part of it as humans. And yeah, I think it's very...
Right, that we are nature. We're not separate from nature. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So I have a few more of these warm-up questions for you, Brenda. The next one's about true power. How do you define true power?
I think true power is being able to own who you are. I have a daughter who's very sensitive, and she has 2 older brothers, and they were often kind of tough on her, as sometimes older brothers can be, not all, obviously, but, but I always, like, my knee-jerk reaction would be to rescue her, to help her and to stick up for her. But then I realized by doing that, it just made my sons more mad because I thought I was favoring her, and it was taking away her true power. It wasn't letting her develop that and learn how to give it back and stand up for herself. So I think true power is just owning anything that it takes courage. It's like sometimes even enthusiasm takes courage, like to be excited about something. Some people are embarrassed to show that excitement, but like just owning it. Like if you're really excited about going to the fair or something, like show it. I think that's true power, or not letting, other people's judgment hold you back. Just be like, nope, that's me. And I, this is how I work. And hopefully it's in a positive direction, but like, just like I said, kind of owning how you feel, what motivates you, what you're into, what you're interested in, and things, just really not being afraid to show that and run with it.
I love that, of course. Yeah, this vision that we can do that we can be ourselves, but not in a separated, judgmental way. We can just honor our own uniqueness.
Even mistakes, if we make mistakes, like own them, be like, yeah, that wasn't my best move, or I shouldn't have done that. And then when there's power in that, just being able to admit it, and really that, I think it's powerful for other people too, to hear someone say when they made a mistake or admit a vulnerability of theirs or a flaw or something, so that they feel like they have permission to do the same.
Does it resonate with you, Brenda, this idea that self-love is connected to true power, to being ourselves, to having the courage to be who we are?
Yeah, I guess I for a long time, I had a hard time using the word self-love. I don't know. I guess I felt like it was kind of indulgent, but I feel different about it now because I have kind of a different definition of it. And it is more like we've been talking about, where it is where you own your own being, who you are, and you're good with it. You're okay with it. I don't think of it as I love myself, I'm a good person. I'm, kind of like saying those things so much, but more like I can accept where I am right now. As a person, and that is more self-love. And I think that I can get behind, or, and that resonates with me.
Yeah, self-acceptance. Yeah, that's a beautiful practice, I would say. Sometimes I used to think about self-love and self-acceptance as an understanding, like a moment in time of that kind of understanding. But then it seems like that happens, but then we keep expanding, as you mentioned earlier, and growing into what that is.
Kind of ever evolving, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. What is to really accept myself? And am I being authentic now? And haven't I really been authentic my entire life? Because I didn't really know anything else. So I don't believe in choice. I know it's a tough one.
The acceptance thing is interesting. As you're talking, I'm kind of thinking, my husband used to say, when we would have some, like an argument about something, he would say, well, you just have to accept that's who I am, and I had a really hard time with that. I think, I'm still working on like what I believe acceptance means, but I guess I think, like we've been saying, we're always growing and evolving. So there's acceptance, but there's also knowing that there's more, or that maybe you can do a little more. or learn a little more.
I absolutely agree, and I know what you're trying to say, to communicate, is that self-acceptance, the danger might be that we just become stuck or stagnated. And then now I accept myself, this is who I am, and this is it. But I see what you mean.
But I know that's not really what you mean.
No,
but,
no.
I definitely just feel like there's always room for growth, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And what happens once you accept yourself where you are now, for me, has been, then it kind of something opens up, that space. I'm now in a space, in the perfect space for growth, because I become more open and more welcoming of life.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Like if you can accept what is, again, and just go, then it is easier to, you're open, you're, like you said, to new things, and what comes.
Yeah, it's easier to move because now you don't feel stuck in any, I don't accept myself, resistance and fear. It's really a contracted sort of energy that doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, like we said. Right. We want to expand.
Yes, right. And that, to me, has been my experience, accepting myself and everything the way it is, everything just, I've become, it's almost like I relate that to freedom in a way. Like, wow, I'm liberated. And then I can do more, I can see more. Not that I believe in choice, really, but I think there's some sort of expansion that something opens up and then I can see the options more clearly now.
Right. Like I said, like we were saying, if there's resistance or fear, you're not as open to.
So talk to me about the main inspiration and intention of writing your book, Brenda.
So I consider myself an introvert, and within the book, it's kind of my storyline. Growing up in a mostly extroverted family, feeling a little less than for a lot of my younger years. I had good friendships and things, but I guess it was more within my home that I felt maybe not quite as popular, gregarious, successful as like my sister or, someone growing up. So, but over time, and as I matured and had new experiences and new relationships, there's a rise. I changed. I became more whole, I think. Still working on all that. But I guess I always wanted to write a book because I started a website over 10 years ago now, and it was and still is BrendaKnowles.com, directed at highly sensitive people and the people who love them. And I guess I wanted to give them a voice, the more sensitive people, let them know they're not alone, let them know that there are many gifts that come along with being more sensitive or introverted. That was the main inspiration, my own story, and then finding others who felt the same and were looking, for an advocate or a validation, that kind of thing. So
that's beautiful. I love this intention. As I said to you off record, helping yourself and trying to understand ourselves and others too, and connecting at that level of understanding deeper who we are and finding others that feel the same way. Although that could create the tribalism, which is dangerous in a way.
Right. But I think, like I said, sort of that balance between the internal and external world. So knowing who we are, but then also interacting with many others, like a variety of people in our environment. And we don't want to slip into tribalism.
Yes, we don't want to do that. We have seen the dangers of that, which is something that it seems challenging not to do in a way, right, Brenda? Because storytelling, that connects us. It's so powerful, stories. And at the same time, it has a danger to create that sort of protective and almost like it could create hatred and rage,
competitive,
right?
Or right, like we're better, or you're, us and them kind of thing, right? I think the key is to look for those universal human characteristics and connections that we all have. We all want good things for our children, good things for our family. We want to have a comfortable home and have some free time and travel, take whatever, explore how we like to explore and things. So I think there's enough to connect us without just making different groups that are divisive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, without creating that, division, right? Separation. And that's the thing about storytelling, that it's not just that I relate to your story, it's that we are better than others. And that's when it becomes dangerous. But I love what he said about universal connectivities. What connects us all, which is basically we all want to be peaceful, at peace, and happy, all of us, and safe, and feel safe.
Right.
So you also mentioned something interesting in your book you did, and just now, about becoming more whole. That is such of an interesting idea that I have kind of expanded into it. The more I kind of reflect or come into this place of realization, is that we have been whole all this time too. The same as authenticity. We will never not whole or separated from wholeness. But there's a feeling of separation, right? Because even with life itself being different bodies and, nature and everything seems very much separated. That's a more like a spiritual concept. But kind of makes me think about us being whole. We're never not whole. Now, there's a feeling of being broken, right?
Right. Or separate. Right. Yeah. And alone or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Or not complete. Yeah. Like you're saying. Yes.
But it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling, like everything else in a way in this human body from this experience.
Yeah. And I think maybe as we mature, we learn that we reveal the parts that maybe we didn't recognize or weren't as aware of, at one point. So I think I like what you said about we are never not whole. We are whole, but I think sometimes we don't know that, we don't feel it or know it, deeply. So as we grow and learn things through our, growth, I think it just becomes more revealed to us that we are whole. We have both sides, dark and light, and all, the introverted, extroverted, many, it's not all binary or whatever, but it's always whole. We just have to sort of uncover it or become aware.
Yeah, and we've never been taught really that we are whole, right? It's quite the opposite. We have
everyone will point out where you're
separated. Yeah, right. It is an undoing, unlearning for sure, to go back to that feeling of wholeness again. And I think all children, we're all born like that, feeling whole. Right.
Yes. Children are usually very open and carefree and don't fear saying things or doing things. But then we sort of learn what to cover and what to reveal. And
at some point that happens without even realizing. We're kind of drawn into this separated feeling, which I call it like, it's actually really being separated wholeness. That's what we are, being a human body and having these feelings of separation. But it's just, it's the dance
perception, or it's like what we perceive as separation. But
right. So you are, and I love the way you say intuitive, sensitive, deeply feeling introvert. I love when you say that, deeply feeling. That kind of makes me think about life itself. That's the reason we are here, the experience in the human body, to deeply feel everything. And that's why we feel separated, because of, these wonderful feelings. You cannot just choose them. We have one of them. Everything, all feelings are included.
Yes, right. Yes.
And you're also a personal and relationship coach. Talk to me about your services as a personal and relationship coach, Brenda. Online, offline, in person?
Oh gosh, I've done several different modes. I meet with people in person if they are in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. I've done many Skype, Zoom video calls with people all over the world. And then I've also done a lot of just traditional phone calls with clients. I would say most of my coaching is done one-on-one with someone, but I've also worked quite often with couples through relationship coaching, and all of it's very rewarding. And I've learned many things just through the process of coaching, but I love helping others. I love helping them become more whole or feel more whole, maybe, become aware of their wholeness, help with confidence, self-esteem for the individual. And then I would say the majority of my time is spent on working with people and their relationships and making those as secure and fulfilling as possible, helping people deal with conflict, helping them deal with growth. Often one partner's in a different growth tangent than the other one, and there's things going on, or they feel separated, they feel disconnected, and I help them each feel more secure so that they are very open and willing to be vulnerable and have that intimacy and connection that they want. So, and I kind of specialize in working with people who are highly sensitive and their partners or family member or whatever. And honestly, quite often it's the more extroverted or the partner who's feeling a little more confident who will contact me, and then, work with them and helping them understand their partner a little better, and the more sensitive partner. I love it. It's like a fascinating, almost like a puzzle that I never get tired of, doing, but it's very rewarding, especially when I see things working and people connecting and feeling more confident, more themselves, more comfortable in their skin and in their relationship.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's a gift. It's almost like this gift that is mutual, right? It's a giving and receiving, which is the way I define love, giving and receiving.
And there is I am always kind of honored that people will share with me their struggles or, where they're having a hard time, and then being able to have the opportunity to help them work through those. That's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome to witness. And
it very much sounds like, even listening to you, the way you talk with the enthusiasm, it's a beautiful thing.
I like it. I enjoy it. And I'm thankful that I have technology and things so that I can connect with people anywhere, all over the world. And it's great.
True. It helps a lot. Yeah. Talk to me for a moment about practice 6, calming each other's nervous systems, principles of responsiveness.
Oh, yeah. I think that is one of the key things for creating security and that level of kind of peace between people. And it can be any kind of relationship. And so there's being responsive, like in one small way, is just when like a partner makes a bid for your attention. They might say something like, oh, hey, look, so-and-so's out across the street and they have a new car or something. And as the partner, you would turn and look out the window or whatever and comment on what your partner just mentioned. It's not dropping the ball or not looking up from your phone. I mean, that is not being responsive, obviously. But there's just the parent and child relationship where a child has a need or they make a request, and physically turning, facing them with your chest, with your heart toward them, and looking at them in the eyes and responding. That kind of responsiveness, which is better and more effective if it's in person, is very calming to someone else's nervous system. Feeling like someone is looking at you, taking the time to truly listen and hear what you said and respond in a way that shows they have an understanding of what your message was. It's an amazing gift. Like I said, it really goes a long way to make someone calm down. That heart rate slows, the blood pressure goes down. There's even touch can, help with that too. And like, that's what I said, why I say being in person is kind of the best way to be responsive. We can use FaceTime and texting and things. And those are all ways to respond. They're just not quite as peaceful or calming as someone being in person. And, because looking at each other's facial expressions, noticing even clearer someone's tone of voice and those kind of things, those are other signs of responsiveness that really are richer in person. But if sometimes we don't have that luxury, so you do what you can. But anyway, there's a lot of, different techniques for different ways to be responsive, but just the bottom line is pay attention and don't let there be a million distractions, like actually zeroing in on someone for just a minute or two even, can help. Yeah. So.
What a beautiful and important message. Yes, yeah. Listening, paying attention, right? It makes a huge difference. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And don't go too long, between being responsive, when there's a request for attention and then the response, that it's important to not have a big delay if at all possible. And sometimes we can't, there's no choice, but respond in a timely manner. It doesn't have to be in 5 seconds or anything, but.
Yeah, I see that sensitive people, or some of us are more sensitive than others, obviously, and we are able to kind of intuitively kind of pick up those things, and right, the body language, the breathing. I love sensitive people, of course, because
me too. And I mean, it's interesting, even like how quickly someone moves or speaks. Someone who is pretty sensitive, it's going to notice that. If someone walks into a room and walks right up to you quickly, a sensitive person is going to be more likely to maybe take a little step back. Just that feeling of approach, a quick approach and things, or even if someone's talking really fast, digesting all that, if you're a more sensitive person, is harder. It's just we need a little slower and more gentle approach, that kind of thing sometimes.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for doing what you do, for being you. Yes, that's
you're welcome.
it.
Thank you.
For being you. So I have a few more questions for you, the ending questions. Before that, would you like to add anything or read a passage in your book?
I was going to read just one short little piece here. It kind of goes along with what we were talking about. It's talking about honoring our inner and outer world, and it's just a few action steps to increase our fortitude and resilience so we are able to do that, honor both the inner and outer world. And one step that I wanted to list was to seek and invest in responsive and reassuring relationships. So that, to me, is the number one thing to do to build our resilience, to make ourselves more open to the world, to what's happening around us. Those responsive and reassuring relationships buffer us. They give us that fortitude to be able to be out in the noisy world, the busy, active world. Action step number 2 to increase fortitude and resilience is engage in meaningful and valued work. Notice where you enter the flow state and give yourself time to deeply concentrate by minimizing distractions. So the meaningful and valued work. Do something that you're excited about, that makes you want to get up in the morning. Now, every job has its not so fun parts, but if there's some meaning behind it or something you value, that will make you stronger. You'll be able to withstand a long conference where you have to network with lots of people, or, something that maybe not be your favorite. But if you believe in what you're doing and it's important to you, you'll have that fortitude and strength to do what's needed. And then the last one, number 3, form your redemptive narrative. Now, we didn't talk about this too much today, but a little bit. See how nature and nurturing influenced your temperament and personality. And then how did your struggles fortify you? And I think that's really important. Just kind of see the things that challenged you or were hard for you growing up or whatever. See those in a light of, hey, they shaped me. They made me who I am. And because of that, I'm a stronger person and I'm able to do this and do that where other people might not be as capable. So just really noticing how you came full circle, what your narrative is and how it worked for you in the end. That makes you stronger. It makes you feel like, okay, I lived through that and here's what gifts I gained from it.
That is so useful. As you read, I'm thinking, yes, 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 to all of it. So true. Thank you so much again for doing what you do, Brenda.
My pleasure.
Yeah. We need that. We need to be reminded. We need to engage in those practices and reevaluate, right, the lives that we are living in a way.
Right. Take that time to reflect on it. And I know sometimes reflection time is a luxury, but it's
necessary.
It can really give you some good true power.
Absolutely. So my last question to you is, what are 3 things you wish everyone to have, to know, or to experience or realize before they lose the body?
First thing that came to mind right away is a secure relationship of some sort, be it a parental relationship, be it a romantic relationship, something where you have someone who's your teammate, person you can rely on. I want that. I guess I want people to have that sense of wholeness, I guess, where they are aware, there's so much beautiful already within them, where they do feel they are whole. They've got that internal and external world meshing, and they have an interdependence that is working for them. I feel comfortable in that, I guess. Feel comfortable in interdependence, which is a wholeness, really. And then I just wish them health and safety, I guess, just be able to really experience the whole life, all of its richness to some degree, to have your health and a safe enough environment to be able to do that.
Thank you so much again, Brenda.
Yeah.
For everything you do.
For all your work and your great questions.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you
thought-provoking.
Thank you for the encouragement. The body appreciates. The mind and the heart, they are already completely in. So before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
The best place is my website, BrendaKnowles.com, and that's KNOWLES.com. And my books are sold at all bookstores and online at all the usual places. But I keep things posted. I also have some online courses at BrendaKnowles.teachable.com. So those are, for you to do on your own time and your own pace. If you don't want to go through coaching or working with me one-on-one in person, I recommend that. But yeah, otherwise you can find my coaching information and everything on my website, and over 500 posts on being a resilient and loving, highly sensitive person, or someone who is in their life and is close to them. So.
Yeah, I'll have the links on your podcast profile. Thank you so much again, Brenda, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Brenda Knowles and her work, please visit BrendaKnowles.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.